Today we're going to spend most of our time behind the scenes with Willie Martinez, a consummate musician, father of two, and all-around good guy. But here at Steve Maxwell's, Willie's primary function is that of master drum technician, and we consider ourselves really lucky to have him around. But we'll get to that in a minute. I think Steve is in the shop today and has some exciting things to show us. Let's see if we can find him.
Hello, I'm Steve, and I want to tell you a little bit about some of the things that we're doing, especially with Gretsch. We've done some special things with Gretsch over the years, including special finishes. The burgundy sparkle that we have, the vintage copper mist that we have, and also the Mardi Gras finish, and now Fiesta Pearl. And that's what we're holding right here. This is the actual first complete drum set in Fiesta Pearl. The Fiesta Pearl is an interesting animal. The Mardi Gras Pearl is this pattern on a black background. And then we decided for Fiesta Pearl we would take this same pattern, put it on a white background. So you basically got another completely new product and a replica of the old style Fiesta Pearl in addition to the Mardi Gras. Great stuff. This finish is exclusively available through us for Gretsch USA custom drums, built in Ridgeland, South Carolina by Paul Cooper and the great team down there. They do a fantastic job. The original finishes were used by Rogers primarily and Slingerland. Both had those finishes. Actually, Leedy even had the finishes as well. And what we used for the Mardi Gras was an original Rogers tom that was a pristine example from a friend of ours. And we used that drum as the template for the Mardi Gras finish. It worked out really, really well. The finish that we've got for Mardi Gras just is basically a little bit different, so that it's not going to be an exact replica. So it's like a tribute to the old finish with a little bit of its own unique characteristics to it. What you're looking at here is done in what we call vintage build-out, which was an idea that we came up with a few years ago, whereby we build the set out with internal tone controls, just like on the 60s era drums, vintage T's and claws, disappearing spurs, vintage floor tom leg brackets, so it basically looks exactly like the vintage kits from the 60s. In addition to that, we put our Maxwell Rail Consulette tom holder on here, which is now available through KMC as a Gretsch vintage replacement part, and that kind of completes the look of the vintage set. This chestnut Duco finish is beautiful, and we helped Gretsch come up with the name for that. And this particular kit was the kit that was on display at the NAMM show this year in January in Anaheim, and it's also the kit, the very same kit that was used for the photographs on page 6 in the Gretsch catalog for 2011.
Thanks, Steve. Now let's get back to the workshop, where we're going to talk to Willie about a very important part of drum shell construction: bearing edges.
Well, the bearing edge is the literal edge of the shell that comes into contact with the head. Back in the good old days, from maybe the mid-60s prior, calf skin heads were in use. When you mount a calfskin head, you mount it wet, and it basically conforms to whatever shape it's up against. So back in those days, it wasn't entirely necessary to have the most accurate edge, because the way that the calf basically settled into all the nooks and crannies assured pretty much a good fit. There are many reasons why somebody might want to choose to either alter or reproduce an original edge, either because it was damaged or because they want to change the sound of the drum.
So what's the big deal? Why the fuss over this bearing edge versus that bearing edge? 45 degrees, 30 degrees, sharp or rounded over? Well, the bearing edge on a shell turns out to be perhaps the most important factor in determining the specific way the attack and resonance of the drum are produced. Let's take 3 well-known vintage drum companies as examples. In the 1960s, Rogers was the first to employ what we might refer to as a modern bearing edge. It's cut to the inside at a 45-degree angle with a relatively sharp outer edge. This allows plenty of resonance and a good balance of highs, mids, and low end in the attack. Ludwig used a shallower bevel at that time, allowing more contact between the shell and the head, and as a result, the Ludwig sound was still resonant, but with an emphasis on warmth and low end. Gretsch employed quite a different strategy. By rounding the edge to the outside, maximum shell contact is achieved, and the result is a drier, punchier attack with a much shorter decay. Willie has agreed to let us take a look at what's actually
So what we
involved
have
in
to
cutting
do-
a bearing edge.
So what we have to do is, if you notice here, there's a snare bed for the double strainer. And what we have to do is sand that out, make this flat so that we can re-edge it and then recreate a new snare bed in the necessary place. So this is kind of old school. What we have here is a sanding board that I've made and attached to my bench. And once this is sanded down, you can't see it now, but we have a stone slab here that we'll double check to make sure that this is flat. So the process basically of sanding this down is really just about standing here and giving it, I give it 100 turns at a clip, so there you go. We've sanded flat here, but we noticed that this is yet to be touched. So we'll continue sanding until we get it flat. Probably take about 600 or 700 or 800 turns. See ya.
Looks like we're ready to make a cut.
So what we've done here is we've sanded down this Gretsch bass drum. The customer had this edge previously and he wasn't happy with it entirely, so what we're going to do is we're going to re-edge with the original Gretsch 30-degree bit, and then we're going to clean it up by hand. So. So now what we do is the inside is done. Now what we'll do is the outside edge will be done by hand with a wood file.
An all-around good
The
guy.
job will be complete.
Hopefully, we've been able to shed some light on an important but sometimes mysterious aspect of drum construction. So next time you're shopping for drums, checking out drums, or just listening to drums, consider the shape of the bearing edge and how it affects what you're hearing. Until next time, thanks for stopping by.